everybody. I hope everybody had a good fall break, and I'm looking forward to jumping into another good week with you guys and kind of learning about peers and peer relationships of adolescence. I think that's an important. Well, I think they're all important chapters, but as kids age and become adolescents, move into early adulthood, those peer relationships move up the chain of importance. So when kids are younger, your family are probably going to be the people you rely on the most. But as adolescents, you become an adolescent and you move into early adulthood. You spend more and more time with those peers, and you tend to be influenced more and more by those peers. So I think this chapter is, it's important to understand kind of how those peer relationships develop, how they can influence adolescents, and kind of what impacts they can have in terms of the decisions and the choices that adolescents make. And how maybe that's different than when they were younger and even sometimes when they're older, because it does make a big difference. And like I said, you tend to have more interaction with your peers as an adolescent than you did previously. So that becomes a greater influence on what you do, whether that be positive or negative. Hopefully positive, but as we'll read and talk about, there are some negative impacts that peer relationships do have. So this video, I want to apologize, it's probably going to be a little bit longer than previous videos, but I do encourage you to watch the whole thing. There's just several things to talk about, I guess. So the first thing I want to tell you guys is I'm working on the exams and getting those graded, getting the essay questions graded. Hopefully by tomorrow night at the latest would be my goal. But no later than Wednesday, those should be posted. It does take time to kind of read through those questions and trying to give people at least enough feedback to where they can understand maybe where they missed points on those. So I'm working on that. I went through the multiple choice questions and kind of looked at the test statistics and saw there were a couple questions where I felt there was maybe some confusion on the way I worded the question, but also maybe some confusion in how it was presented in the book as well. So I made sure to kind of go back and give some points on those questions. So if you guys have any questions on any of the questions from the test or any quizzes that you guys want to ask about that you're unsure of, feel free to do that. Because I am human, sometimes I make mistakes on some of those. So yeah, feel free to ask me questions on that. So today I went through all of the bonus questions. There were 3. They were bonus and they kind of provided me some feedback and some kind of direction for what you guys are thinking. Because without that, things don't change and things stay the same if nobody says anything. So I gave you guys that opportunity. One of the questions was, what did we go over that you enjoyed, I believe, the most? I didn't provide anything for me to talk about on that because that was, pretty straightforward. But the other 2 questions were things to change for the rest of the semester regarding this course. And then the other question was, what would you like to learn more about this semester? So I'm going to start with the changes. I thought you guys provided some very insightful ideas and suggestions and thoughts on that. Because in an online class, there's no way for me to know what is working, what's not working, unless you guys talk to me about it. So I'm glad that you guys, I feel like, provided some honest and real suggestions and thoughts in terms of what can change in this course the rest of the semester. Because all I can do really in an online class, I don't see your faces. I can't hear your tone of voice. I can see your grades, but that's not always a good indicator of what's working, what's not working. And so having this feedback from you guys really is helpful. And so we're going to obviously not be able to do all of those changes or implement everything or make huge drastic changes, but I think there's a few things based on that feedback that we can do the rest of the semester, or at least try and see if it makes a difference. And then there were a few of those things I just want to talk to you guys about in terms of why maybe we do it that way as well. So there was several people who had mentioned chapter outlines and study guides. And so, yeah, that's a good suggestion. I don't know if we'll be able to do a chapter outline for every chapter this semester, but I will try my best next week um, to get you guys at least a small, simple chapter outline to kind of help you guys follow along, because that was something that several people had mentioned in that sense. And then in terms of another one was just study guides. I think that kind of ties into that. I hope that the final exam study guide, I hope that to be a better one than I feel the midterm one was. And then there were several comments about the discussion boards and the posts. I know there was a couple comments about the flow and not feeling like they can put their comments in there. If that's how you feel, I encourage you, even if you don't think it fits into the discussion, post it. Post whatever thoughts you may have. Whatever content from the textbook you may think is relevant to that question, even if maybe that discussion board isn't moving that direction in terms of what's been said. Go ahead and put it. It's not necessarily about flow at all times. Sometimes there is an importance to that, but I think in those discussion boards, if you have a thought, if you have a feeling, if you have an experience or an example you would like to share, whether that be personal or from the textbook, feel free to share that. Because I think it can add to the conversation regardless of where that conversation's at currently. And then there were a lot of comments about quizzes and the exam. Some of it about the structure, some of it about the questions. And so I want to talk to you guys about the questions on the exam first. And the quizzes, because I think they both go together. So on both the quizzes and the exams this semester, those are pretty much new. So we're kind of trying to build those from scratch. And so, yeah, there is some error on some of the questions. There will be probably one or two questions. Almost every quiz that when I write it, I think, oh, that makes sense. That's clear. It's concise. Or if I pull it from a test bank, I think, that's clear, it's concise. And then I see the grade on it from this class and the face-to-face section. And I go, yeah, maybe that wasn't. Everybody missed it, or a majority of people missed it. And so I go look back through it and I look at the textbook, kind of where that answer is, and I look at the question itself, and I kind of use both of those aspects to kind of determine what to do. And so with all of your quizzes, I've gone back almost every week during that week and kind of corrected some of those if you missed it. And so it shouldn't hurt your grade if there's a poorly worded or somewhat confusing question, because I have gone back and corrected some of the grades on those, on every quiz and on the midterm. It's the same thing I do in my face-to-face class as well. I do the same thing. In terms of the time given on the quizzes and the exams, that is meant to be an equal equivalent to what the face-to-face sections get on their quizzes and their exams. So you guys were given, I think, 75 minutes on the exam. The face-to-face class was given also 75 minutes for their exam. And they get about, again, 15 minutes for the quiz as well. So that's kind of why that timing is there. On the final exam, you'll have more time. You'll have almost 2 full hours for the final exam. So in terms of the structure of our quizzes, I've had a couple comments about the average being taken, on the 2 attempts. And so what we're going to do from here out, hopefully, is we're going to scratch that and take the highest of the 2 attempts. So you can't hurt yourself by trying twice, but you can help yourself by trying twice. So we're going to take the highest of the 2 attempts from this point forward. And I'll make sure to state that again elsewhere so you guys are aware. And the reason I give you guys 2 attempts and we were trying it with the average is because in the face-to-face section, they take the quiz individually, and then they take it as a group to possibly earn 3 bonus points if they're grouped as the best. And so we're trying to do the average of your 2 attempts to make it at least as close to possible as a fair equivalent to the face-to-face section. But based on the comments I've received from you guys on the quiz, it doesn't sound like it is a fair equivalent. So we're going to try to take the highest of your 2 attempts from this point forward. And that's really kind of the biggest things that stood out to me in terms of what we can change. I'll try to make some small adjustments to the discussion board as well. But honest, it really just comes down to you guys participating, posting, and being thoughtful in those as well. But I'll try to change up some of the questions and add some different material to those as well to make them hopefully more beneficial, but also more intriguing and more inviting to participate in as well. And then in terms of and going back to all that stuff, if you guys ever have any concerns or questions for me, please email me. Because like I said, I don't know. It's hard to know on some of this stuff until you guys say something. So if you send me an email and you're like, hey, I don't know if this is working, let me know, and we can work towards a solution for that. We can work towards like fixing that or remedying that or explaining maybe why we do it. So feel free to always email me if you have questions, concerns, or complaints. Any of those, I welcome them all, because there's always some benefit to any of that. Even a negative comment, there's some benefit I can draw from that. And like I said, without you guys telling me, it's hard for me to know exactly what is going on your end. So I probably will post a couple videos actually, because this is already 12 minutes. And there's a couple other things I want to go over with you guys. And so I want to break this up into at least manageable sections.